Cancellation, Cult Fanbase Activism, and Fox's Fringe. Since the dawning of network-era television in the early 1950s, consumers have had the luxury of continually experiencing brand new cinematic content from the comfort of their own homes. While this exciting realm of media consumption has continued to open up new doorways for recreational escapism well into the present day, it should be noted that every frontier comes with its own set of detriments. In the case of television, one of those detriments happens to be cancellation. To put it eloquently, cancellation is when a network decides to sentence a series to an untimely death. Alternatively, sometimes a show is cancelled on behalf of those who work on it due to boredom or contractual issues. This video essay will be examining the causations of cult TV show cancellation and the power of fan activism, specifically in regards to the Fox network show Fringe. The main argument this video will present is that the standard television ratings model in the US is an inaccurate representation of full view count, and that television networks should stop using it as a means of determining the worthwhileness of renewing non-mainstream shows. As background, it would first be helpful to explore a few varying definitions of cult TV as well as a few examples of cult television shows to get a baseline understanding of the issue. According to Matt Hills, there are several ways the cult can be defined in regards to television. The first definition of cult TV that Matt Hills outlines is that cult TV can be defined through textual analysis and depends on text. The second definition he provides is that cult TV can be defined through an analysis of secondary text or intertexts. While the definition of a secondary text here outlined seems to be more leaning towards journalistic, arguably fanfic would fall into this definition. The third definition he outlines is that cult TV can be defined through analysis of fan practices and depends on fan activities. Focusing on the audience-centric definition that Hills provides, aka the third definition, can help when analyzing the interactivity between a cult fanbase and a show when faced with the looming threat of cancellation. Here's a table detailing information surrounding some cult TV shows, and the terms of their cancellation. Shows highlighted in pink were cancelled due to unsatisfactory ratings using the Nielsen model. Shows highlighted in blue were cancelled on behalf of, the showmakers themselves, be it the writers or actors deciding they did not want to renew another contract. Titles with smiley face symbols next to them were renewed or revived due to fanbase-led efforts and campaigns. Notably, Star Trek was the first show to have been saved due to fan efforts. Bejo and John Trimble are a married couple who started a mail campaign to save the original Star Trek series from cancellation in the late 60s. Tens of thousands of fans mailed in letters trying to get the show renewed, and they were successful. Bejo and John are directly responsible for how successful the Star Trek franchise is to date. If they had not launched this activism campaign within the fandom, none of the subsequent Star Trek series nor any of the feature-length films would have been made. If so many people were passionate enough about the show to mail in letters to save it, it is safe to question why it was threatened with cancellation. The answer is that at the end of the second season of Star Trek airing, NBC had announced that the show would not be renewed for the third season due to underperforming Nielsen ratings. So, what does this mean? What are the Nielsen ratings and why are they so important? Networks mainly use ratings as a marker for the success of a series, aka how worthwhile investing into making the show would be long-term. In Karen Buzzard's essay, The Rise of Market Information Regimes and the Historical Development of Audience Ratings, she details that the field of ratings in TV is based on audience size. Audience size, known as exposure, literally serves as the currency for determining the cost paid by advertisers for network and spot advertising. The ratings are just an extension of audits to provide greater controlling of the selling process. So essentially this system is set up to be more of a currency on the buying and selling of ad slots. The system isn't necessarily concerned with the continuation of specific TV shows or the TV shows themselves at all. It's basically just an ad market mechanism. In Karen Van Ness's article, Reimagining Television Audience Research, Tracing Viewing Patterns on Twitter, she gives an outline of how the Nielsen ratings work. Nielsen collects data about television viewing through diaries kept by members of a relatively small audience sample, and meters that are connected to television sets. They provide ratings for programs according to a system where one Nielsen rating point equals 1% of all US households with television sets tuned into that program. She then goes on to state that Nielsen introduced its C3 rating in 2009. So essentially, until 2009, Nielsen was only taking into account the live view count of programs when collecting data. They were not taking into account viewership of pre-recorded episodes on DVR at all. For reference, TiVo invented the DVR in 1998, and it first became commercially available to consumers in 1999. It is worth noting that Nielsen also was not taking any data on cross-platform viewership of programs until the year 2015. This would include subscription-based streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, as well as any online viewing options provided by specific networks. For example, Adult Swim has been streaming episodes on their website since 2006. This would mean that any views of episodes of programs watched on Adult Swim's website between the years of 2006 and 2016 would not have been counted in regards to its ratings. Alright, now it's Fringe time. Fringe was a Fox network series created by J.J. Abrams, Alex Kurtzman, and Roberto Orsi that aired between the dates of 2008 and 2013. The show follows the FBI's Fringe division agent Olivia Dunham, played by Anna Torv, Fringe scientist Walter Bishop, played by John Noble, and his son Peter, played by Joshua Jackson. The show also heavily features Lance Reddick as Agent Broyles and Jessica Nicole as Walter's assistant Astrid. There were 5 total seasons, although it was almost cancelled before its 5th season had been fully produced. Fringe got threatened with cancellation due to having a few seasons in a row of declining ratings, although this could be attributed to the time slot changes that it received. 9.13 million people watched the premiere. 9.2 million people watched the finale of Season 1. Season 2 marked the starting of the show having a Thursday time slot, and the Season 2 finale had a rating of 5.6. Season 3 premiered on a Thursday in September. It had a rating of 5.83. Then the show was switched to what is deemed the Friday night death slot. The finale of Season 3 only had 3.29 million people watching, and then the ratings for Season 4 just kind of sat around 3 million-ish. In his essay, #Fringe, Audiences and Fan Labor, Twitter Activism to Save a TV Show from Cancellation, Mar Guerrero Pico, he states that Fox rescheduled Fringe from the stellar time slot of Thursday at 9 p.m. to the inferior time slot of Fridays at 9 p.m., popularly known as the Friday night death slot in American television, which generally signals imminent cancellation for programs with low performance ratings. Okay, now to get into the reason why it didn't actually get cancelled after the 4th season and was renewed for a 5th season. This directly has to do with a Twitter account called Fringenuity, started by Annie Berneman, launched a Twitter movement using hashtags and utilizing the trending system in Twitter's algorithm. Here's a quote from Guerrero's report that details what Fringenuity did to get the hashtags trending. She says that we learned that #Fringe and Save Fringe would never trend because of their constant usage, and that topics trend when they spring up suddenly and are used by a lot of different people, whereas a few people tweeting a hashtag over and over can't make it trend no matter their level of enthusiasm. We needed a spike in usage if we wanted to get a shot at trending. The tweet campaigns did prove successful, even gaining the attention of Fox themselves. On March 26, 2012, Joel Wyman announced on Twitter the series renewal for a 5th and final season that would begin airing in the fall. Nielsen caught wind of this and was like, "Oh dear God, we haven't been counting tweets." And then they started counting tweets. Fringe is a good example of ratings-based cancellation that probably wasn't that merited, due to the network specifically changing it to slots that don't do as well, and then also Nielsen not taking into account literally anything except live viewership and DVR at the time. It's also a great example of how fan-based activism can save shows and impact the media industry.